Davis. Tess Zimmerman with a medical examiner from here in Jacksonville testifying for prosecutors.
Jay Gray's live outside the courthouse in Sanford, Florida with the very latest. Jay?
Hey there, Ken, Heather. Yeah, the intensity really picking up inside the court here today. Testimony focused on the crime scene as well as George Zimmerman's actions and injuries from the night Trayvon Martin was killed.
Lead Detective Chris Serino returned to the witness stand today as questions continued to center on multiple statements George Zimmerman made to police after he shot and killed Trayvon Martin.
And there were some changes. I think you said yesterday there were certainly some expansions and even some minor inconsistencies, right?
Yeah, there was some variations of accounts.
But nothing that you considered significant.
Nothing major, no.
But prosecutor Bernie De La Ronda aggressively pushed back.
In your opinion, calling somebody, reference them as, pardon my language, punks?
That is ill will and spite.
During questioning by De La Ronda, Serino told the jury he thought Zimmerman followed Martin after being told not to, profiled the teenager, and he said Zimmerman's account of position of Martin's body was not consistent with how police found it after the shooting. He also questioned his description of the confrontation that night.
You feel he had exaggerated the manner in which he was hit?
Yes, sir. Yes,
the defense went back on the offensive during cross-examination, pointing out the police dispatcher asked at least 2 times about where Martin might be.
Does that indicate that he wants him to keep an eye on him?
Yes, sir.
And you said following him is not legally improper, correct?
That's not illegal.
As the case moved forward, the state called an outside medical examiner to the stand.
Are the injuries to the back of the defendant's head consistent with having been repeatedly slammed into a concrete surface?
No.
Why not?
Because if you look at the injuries, they're so minor.
Attorney Mark O'Mara challenged her testimony during cross.
Now, you're not suggesting to some reasonable degree of medical certainty that there was only one strike here, correct?
No.
The technical aspects of the crime scene and injuries will likely give way to the emotions of this case in the next few days, when Trayvon Martin's parents are expected to testify.
Now, a cable news interview with George Zimmerman was also entered as evidence here today. And during that interview, he said at one point Martin did not run. He also said everything that happened that night was, quote, God's plan. Outside the Seminole County Courthouse, I'm Jay Gray. First Coast News, NBC 12, ABC 25.
Jay, thank you very much. Joining us now tonight, our legal panel, Richard Kurtz and John Phillips. Gentlemen, thank you for coming in, as always, tonight. Let's start with that medical examiner from here in Jacksonville who took the stand today, basically saying that she looked at George Zimmerman's injuries and thought that they were not life-threatening and very insignificant. John, what kind of impact does that have in the case?
It's a big issue if you've got somebody saying that their life was threatened and they had self-defense and they had to take a life to save a life. Because if you just have a few scratches because you don't have hair and you've rubbed the sidewalk, how in danger was your life?
And on cross-examination, they pressed her pretty hard and said, well, are you positive it was just one pounding on the cement? Could it have been multiple? And she said, well, it could have been. I mean, does that open up room for the jury, or do you think it was pretty much in the prosecution?
You hear this a lot, and this is my line of work, finally.
Sure,
I get to talk. You know, when you deal with injuries and medical degree, reasonable degree of medical probability or certainty, you know, are you that certain? And overall, I think the point was made that these were minor scratches. They didn't require stitches, and it wasn't the concrete pounding that you see.
And I think that's the point the prosecution wanted to make, even though Mark O'Mara tried to minimize it.
Sure. I mean, what you want to do is, I mean, as Zimmerman is sitting there, he's got his head being pounded against the pavement. Whether it's 1 time or 2 times, that doesn't matter when it's happening to you. You may perceive it as 10, 20, or 30 times, but when your hand's being, put against the pavement, you know it, you feel it, you're going to react to it. So while I understand what she's saying, there was more than one injury. She had to concede there was more than one injury, and so I don't think it's a home run for the prosecution yet.
Let's talk about Chris Serino. He took the stand this morning. He was an investigator. He talked about that he had believed that George Zimmerman did not have big inconsistencies in his story, and then the judge said, jurors, let's throw that out. You cannot consider that. The jury has already heard it. So, I mean, while they can't take that into consideration, they're not supposed to take that into consideration when deliberating, they've already heard it. Is the harm already done?
And I think they've been using the phrase, because we use it all the time in trial, you can't unring that bell. You can't. Matter of fact, sometimes it's worse to ask for the curative instruction, because now you're drawing more attention to it. Because now it's like, okay, he testified to that. Now I tell the judge, oh, that thing you heard, disregard it. And what are they going to do? They're going to concentrate on it. So it's a tough call when you ask for a curative instruction like that for disregard.
It's out there. Who would you say is ahead if you want to take it at that metaphor of rounds and
on second-degree murder? I think the defense is way ahead. If you drop it down to manslaughter, I think it's pretty close, but ties go to the defense. You know, what the state has done is put so much out there that there's a lot of reasonable doubt living all over the place.
So, do you think the jury's going to be able to reach a decision?
I don't know. It's such a tough case to begin with, and there's so much gun right issue and race issue with it. I would not want to be one of those jurors.
You mentioned race. You heard Jay said a second ago that the words today were, it was all God's plan. And somewhere in testimony with Serino that we're talking, or the investigator Doris, I can't remember her last name. They were talking about the cross she was wearing. And so is religion also now one of those sub-tiers in this whole?
Generally, it's a no-no in the courtroom. You know, usually you don't bring it up at all. It's as if it's a non-issue. And I was surprised that they went there a little bit today, because you know, I've seen absolute mistrials or close to mistrials where religion comes in and it becomes a feature of the case.
Sure.
And we were talking, John, earlier about possibly a mistrial in this as far as the hearsay element goes. Because today, one of George Zimmerman's identified himself as one of George Zimmerman's best friends, who Zimmerman lived with after this incident happened. He's written a book about this and basically recounting what he says is Zimmerman's account of the night Trayvon Martin was killed. Is it hearsay?
It's crazy. There are exceptions to hearsay, and a statement against interest is one. And so, you know, essentially, to the extent that you can make this book a first-party account that Zimmerman, this was basically a biography of Zimmerman, you can bring in the contents of that book. But it's weird to have somebody writing a book before the criminal trial and making it a part of this, such that you're going off into areas of sheer speculation, because hearsay is an out-of-court statement presented for the truth of that statement. We don't know if these were true. You know, this was his salesmanship of his book. It's crazy.
I mean, the whole purpose is, I mean, you want to be able to cross-examine the person who made the statement and what they said. And John's saying something that I said, you don't get a chance to cross-examine me on it. So you lose some credibility, you lose some flow with it. So I think it's very difficult with the jury in this case.
When it's their turn, do you think O'Mara and West will have Zimmerman take the stand? Or?
Not a chance. Not a chance. I've always thought there would never be a chance. And then the last couple of days, when they played all the interviews, they were wholly consistent. There's small inconsistencies, but as a rule, the question I have as a defense lawyer is there anything big enough that I jeopardize putting my client on the stand and putting a 20 or 30-year prosecutor up against my client? And based on what I've seen so far, not a chance.
Very interesting. We're still expecting the state to call Trayvon's mother and father to stand, which I can only be very emotional testimony that could stick strong with the jury.
Absolutely. I've met Sabrina. I've had dinner with her. And say, like what you did, like what you say, or whatever about Trayvon, she's a very powerful mom who lost her kid.
And that's the way the state would like to end. They would like to wrap up their case on Wednesday before they go in the 4th of July and leave the jury with something to think about, and that'll be family.
Okay, and the jury, again, taking the trial is going to be off on the 4th of July, but we'll resume, we understand, the following day, and we will have you all back in tomorrow and on Friday as well to continue to follow the developments. Thank you so much for coming in tonight. And reminder, check out our page at firstcoastnews.com, the Zimmerman trial page, where you can on our poll questions of the day.